All right. Look at that. I think we are live here on the Dev Talk Show on September 29th, 2021. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. And let's just double check. Can we hear from my co-host, Andy Schwam?
Hello.
And Rich Ross.
Hey, how we doing, Chris?
All right. Good. So yeah, rough start there, huh? That was some fun stuff. But I think we are live. I think we are here. I think we are international. I was going to say I think we are local. I used to know a radio DJ who said we're live and we're local, and then I thought about it and I was like, wait a second, that doesn't really.
Yeah.
That's
That was some of the people we have listening.
I shouldn't continue with that vein. That's not it. But anyways, yeah. Here we are coming to the fall. Fall has fallen here in the U.S. and the Northern Hemisphere. And nice. Yeah, we have had, all three of us are in basically the same area, and we have had, I think, a pretty fantastic couple of weeks, barring like a stray storm. There was a bolt of lightning yesterday that shook the ground pretty good, but other than that, like gorgeous weather. So we've been very fortunate here in the Mid-Atlantic. Hopefully the weather and conditions are good where you are. So you can find us on Twitter, as you can see right there. There's our names. Everything's good. Hunky dory. Let's chat. Let's talk about developer things.
Ops is here. Ancient Coders here. Ross the Lips here. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being with us. It was a rough start, but we're here. We did.
Are any of us logged into feature chat because my browser wanted me to re-authenticate? Because I was. Are you? Because I love that last one there from Ross the Lip. That's great. So, anyways, here we are. And what news do we have? I know we've been giving an update every week on community things, and we believe that Philly.net is working on coming back. I don't see anything on the meetup though. Yeah, there it is right there. Sometimes things do go as you expect, but that doesn't stop us from providing estimates. I wonder if he meant don't, or it might even be more ironic if he meant do. So, yeah. A problem sometimes that I have when I run the stream is that I want to do a quick sound check on a different machine. So I have another machine right here. And what happens is I put the headphones in and I'm satisfied. So then I take the headphones off, but I forget to turn off the sound. And even that little bleed, and it's not much bleed, like I can't hear it. But then I listen to the recording later and I go, oh, that little bleed was coming through. How about that?
Yeah. We used to get that in the studio.
Yeah.
Where there'd be, that little puck mic, and I turn the volume, what I think would be all the way down. And later on you say, well, what did we cross up there? Because we're hearing us back again. So it does happen. Yeah, I do the same thing here, but I'm using Voice Meter Banana so that I can hear what's on the web, on the channel, on Twitch, whatever, and then so I don't have to go to another machine. But
yeah,
the headphones.
And the funny thing is like I do the same thing, right? And yet, oddly enough, I don't trust it until I hear it on another machine. Like I'm beginning to have more trust that what I hear on my feedback is pretty good. Mm-hmm. And that's coming with time, but it used to be worse. It used to be like, I don't believe anything until I hear it here.
I got a bank of machines. I'm going to check them all.
And then I'm going to call someone and ask them.
Right. Hey, chat, can you guys hear us?
You don't change anything on your computer and you run the stream like right now and everything works great. And then let's just say we stopped and we started an hour later and you didn't touch your computer and you didn't touch any of your settings. You still can't really trust that the audio is working because somehow something happens and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's like gremlins,
Yeah.
It's
the streaming machine we don't touch for a week.
Right.
And it's still a problem.
Weird. Now, Chops is trying to say something, but I can't hear Chops.
We're not getting Chops tonight. Oh, Well, that
Chop says, "Can you hear me?" And I'm not getting that.
there's always a glitch.
Yeah, that's a good one, Chops. Well played.
One of these days, we will be able to hear Chops.
Yeah, that's true. We've been talking about that, and
yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'll see what happens. So, let's get started. Right, we got a late start, so maybe we can talk about what we're planning to talk about tonight. And to be fair, like most of the shows, that's a good one. I love that from Ancient Coder. Chops, you are muted. That's great. The first words on every Zoom recording these days, right? Or whatever you're using. I don't care. I don't care what it is. You're muted.
Yum.
And then
hashtag yum.
Yeah. So something that I noticed on the web recently, and is these sites. Well, I shouldn't say I noticed it recently. That's ridiculous. There are these sites on the web that provide coding problems, and coding problems are nothing new. You might argue that one of the largest repositories of coding problems and solutions might be Stack Overflow. I mean, I have no statistics for that. I just made that up off the top of my head, but it's nothing new. Since the dawn of the internet, since NNTP and newsgroups, you could have gone to alt. Do my homework, and somebody was probably posting, "Hey, I'm in a CS 101 class. Can someone help me?" Right? That's nothing new. But what's kind of neat is there are sites now that seem devoted to there are sites that seem devoted to helping you improve your skills just by working on coding problems. And again, a lot of the themes that we've talked about on this show, especially when I love talking about doing everything in your browser, this stuff all happens in your browser. This isn't asking you to download anything. It's not asking you to install anything. It's just, hey, come here, pick the language of your choice, and start working on programming problems. Maybe you're learning, or maybe you just want to see what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not an expert on any of these sites other than that I poked around a few of them. I'm actually more of an expert on a site we might look at a little bit later. But I'm gonna see if I can get my screen shared here, and then that also means I'm gonna get it shared so that the delay isn't a huge problem. One thing I didn't test at all is how does my screen look? So we're about to find out.
Yeah, it looks good.
It looks good there, but I can already see that I have to increase it just a touch for the stream, and we will switch over there. So there we are. I think that's okay. So except of course for the audience, and heck, even for myself. Let's make this a little larger. So none of this is sponsored or anything. I picked some sites that I thought were interesting. This is codewars.com. If anybody's heard of codewars.com, let us know in the chat. Let us know if you're watching on YouTube. If you like using this site, tell us what you think. And this is what someone gets when they come to this site for the first time, is they say, to join, you first prove your skills. That sounds a little ominous. Like what kind of gatekeeping is going on here? But I suppose if you know anything about the language, it shouldn't be too difficult. Let me go and pick. We'll use C#. Let me go and pick that. And they're saying here, hey, this code doesn't execute properly. Figure out why. I don't know that it's too difficult. It's clearly a class trying to implement a multiply method, and this isn't going to compile. And I think even I'm pretty confident in saying it's not going to compile. If either of my co-hosts know what we got to do here.
Well, I mean, we need a multiplier operator is what I would guess, right? Because A space B just isn't. I guess that's not really. Code.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would do. Like you said, I don't know that would compile. It does say this code does not execute properly.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that makes me wonder, would that compile? It certainly wouldn't execute properly.
Yeah, I agree.
And I can't imagine it would compile unless there's some way that it would
Well, if I click
I don't
submit,
know.
I wonder what it says. If I click submit, it says, "Oh, there's an error. Expected
Yeah,
a
yeah, okay,
semicolon."
good.
So
That's what
let's
we
let's
expected,
try
right?
again,
So it's just
and let's put in this, and we'll submit. And I'm not sure why they have this tutorial thing. I really don't know. But now that you've done this, you can begin. You can sign up, and you can either sign up by linking a GitHub account, or you can put in an email, username, and password, and you are off and running. And so I'm going to close the in private window now that we saw what the experience will be like
I
for
see what you're
you,
doing. Yeah,
right?
you know, I wonder if that silly little thing is their way to prevent bots from signing up. Like instead
Sure.
of using a CAPTCHA,
Yeah.
they put out a test that's so simple that
Right.
proves you're human, maybe, or something. Who knows,
So
right?
not a bad observation. And I guess like what if I go back to a different one? What if I go back to, oh, well, see, I guess I'm qualified now. So you know what? Forget it. Let's bring up. I
Yeah.
think I've already got this going here. All I got to do is, uh, I'd like to take a look at what the homepage looks like real quick when you are. Oh, I guess not. So we'll go to the dashboard, and we'll make this a little bigger. Oh, this is my dashboard. Okay. I thought that there was more. So, anyways, you can pick. When you come to the dashboard, they show you like challenges, right? They say here's what you can do next. You can scroll down. At least I know I was able to switch. I was able to switch to different languages and stuff earlier, and now it's funny I don't even remember how I did it. If I go to the dashboard, oh, here's what it is there's a drop down here, to pick from various languages, and then see. It's not showing me their entire list. You probably noticed that I scrolled the web page down. It's like, why did he do that? Because I was naturally assuming a combo box. But editing your trading languages, you can pick from this huge list, and I only lit up some, so they're the only. I think I could come back here anytime I want, and add more, right? And so I just picked some. You can pick whatever you want to say, and then back in your dashboard, it's like, here's the next thing to do, right? So I already had this one open just in case we had some trouble with the site. And so, you come here, and I think the idea, we called this challenge-based learning, and I think the idea is it's a little bit of I don't think anybody is pretending that you maybe haven't studied the language before you come here. But it's a little bit of learn by doing instead of read another tutorial. And have you ever run into like tutorialitis with either a topic, a language, a platform where you eagerly work through a tutorial and then you're done with it and you kind of say, now what?
Right.
How do I take this to work? I'm not sure. I'm actually almost afraid now. The tutorial even maybe made me a little more afraid to try it myself. At least I don't know. Maybe that's unique to me. That's how I feel sometimes. So, I don't know. What do you think? I think I cut somebody off.
No, I think you're right. I think, having how can you, obviously you get some structure, obviously you get some fundamentals of what the language does, but I've got a real business problem that I've got to solve with this language. How do I take that business problem and start to pull it apart so that I can actually start writing some code against it? And I think that's where, you move off of just following and cut and pasting a bunch of code to, all right, I'm starting to understand this a little better. And I think that's where that ability to look at the problem and understand how you can apply what you've learned to solve that problem is that next step up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Chris, I was going to ask, do you know if this is just they've got 1,000 tests in here or whatever it is, right? I'm sure there's plenty of content on this site, right? Not criticizing or anything about the site. I'm sure there's plenty of content on here. Do you know if it randomly is just moving through these things, or is there some sort of logic that says, well, you got this one wrong, maybe we should put you in a certain path or something like that, like more structured learning? Or do you think it's just a bunch of samples?
To be fair, I'm not sure. And I'm wondering, so like I say, they do use this scoring system to denote the difficulty. And I don't know if they are using, like you said, being, instead of just going 0 to X, are these things being ranked? Are they being ranked by the community? They seem to be submitted even by users, right?
Oh yeah, look at that.
Which is
That's
a little
kinda cool.
which is a little
They don't
interesting.
even have to write these things. They have contributors submitting things, and from what it looks like on this window, if you just don't scroll for a second here,
Okay.
how old will I be in 2099? This implies to me that same test is available for 6 different languages.
Yes, right.
Which is actually kind of cool, because if you know C#, you could be like, oh, maybe I want to see how this would work in JavaScript or something like that. I think is what that implies, right? Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Is I could choose to do this particular, they're using the kata term, right, which is an old, well, I shouldn't say old, but it's a term I've heard in programming circles for practice that you might do daily.
Yeah, I believe it's taken from like the traditional karate practice routine. When in karate, you do something called a kata. It's like a form that you work your way through. I always kind of assumed that came from that. I don't know if you guys thought the same.
I assumed that it came from a martial art, but I didn't want to guess and guess wrongly.
Well, I'm calling it karate.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they
I
use
don't
it in
know.
others. I remember when I did karate many years ago, many years ago.
Yeah.
There were katas that you worked through, and so I assume that's where it comes from. But this is pretty slick. I like that there's difficulty ratings and there's user submitted challenges and things like that. And I guess what happens is you get a score, right? Like Chris, for each time you answer one, I assume that you're moving up in some sort of cred. That's you right there. 8 kata units. Huh?
Yeah, when I kind of played with the site a little bit, I did a few of these, and it looks like I have eight of these units, right? I don't know if there's a pronunciation. I don't know if they're ku or what. But in any case, if somebody might get this instruction here to implement a function, they've provided this shell kind of to start. And they say, hey, we're going to give you 2 arrays. And the idea here is that you should remove values from A, which are present in B, but keep the order intact. So if the value is present in B, then all of its occurrences should be removed from the first array A, right? And what's kind of neat, I felt, and this goes to what you're saying, I think, Andy, is that you see the tests here, and that kind of makes me think that, yes, this leads more to what you were saying about how it's, so the user submitted, the community that's being built by the users themselves, because I imagine that writing your own one of these is very much like, well, let me write the tests for the language, and then let me write the bare bones starting spot, and there you go. We'll publish it. People can start trying to work on it.
Yeah, what it implies to me now, I haven't even run one of these yet, but what it implies to me, there's the sample tests here.
Mm-hmm.
So that implies to me that they are asserting, right, and as I can see this here, they're asserting the answer, right? But there's no it doesn't appear to be that it matters how you solve this problem. I could be wrong about this, but if I wanted to not manually, if I wanted to write code that compared every item like 1 by 1 by 1, which would probably be a slow way to do this, but I would probably pass because I solved the problem. And I don't know if that's true or not. If they're grading you on an expected code that they've got like a bunch of samples, or are they just running the test to prove success or failure, right? Which is kind of interesting, because I imagine there's quite a few ways to solve this problem. Some of them might be more elegant than others, but at the end of the day, you did it. Even if you do it the quote hard way, right?
Right. And so if it's anything like other sites, and again, when I looked through the docs a little bit, it looks like what you do is the sample tests are something you would provide for the benefit of the person solving the kata, but so that you don't just write code to the test, because you could do that. There's another section of maybe perhaps more advanced tests, maybe the tests that have the sometimes have the gotcha, and what I mean by that is, as I recall in my early coding days, a really common problem that I would get a lot was, given a list of numbers, return the one with the lowest value. And I'm talking early days of programming here, so I'm very young, I'm very new to programming. The common gotcha in that is that you would basically take some value, depending on your language, it might be an integer, you'd set it to 0, and then you'd go through the list and be like, well, if anything's like less than this, then I think I said it the wrong way. I think what I might have said is find the largest. Find the largest. So you'd set it to 0, and then you'd start comparing. And you'd be like, okay, so the first one's 7. Now that's the largest. First one's 8. That works great until you get an array of all negative numbers, right? And this sounds trivial to me today, but the reason I'm trying not to trivialize it is that all those years ago, I got it wrong for that reason, is that somebody said, you didn't think about a list of all negative numbers. And it was like, oh yeah, well shoot. And this was like Pascal or something. So it's like, well shoot, when I create this number, this integer, it's going to be 0. What am I supposed to do? It's like, well, you set what your testing value to the first element in the array. That's your baseline. And that was a revelation to younger me, new to programming, right? Like, oh gosh, I didn't even think about that dimension. I just thought, start comparing. And it's like, well, you're going to... So that digression is to point out that a test like that could be lurking outside of these sample tests for when you submit. It's not a trick. It's just, you might not have thought of this. So do we want to take a crack at this?
Well, I think you should.
Well, I'm curious what either of you might do, and I don't care how brute force it might feel.
I was thinking about how I would solve this problem, right? And my chops are a little weak these days. My guess is there's probably, like some sort of link type thing that does this for me. But, a simple way to do this, right? Not thinking about modern, great benefits of the language or the framework, right? Would be to do a loop through A and then see if they belong in B, like that kind of thing, right? And this is, I think, would work. Now, again, there's probably a simpler way to do it, is my guess. But you can now say, what if B dot contains...
Well, yeah, sure, right.
Or something like that, right? If B
that's slipping into link, right? But let's say we didn't use any at all.
Yeah, I guess contains,
then you'd have a second for loop, right?
I see where you're going, right?
And
you have to do a loop.
And so now you might have to say like bool found it. I mean, I understand that this is right, but whatever. Let's see if we can do it this way. You might say bool found it equals false, and then you're going to loop again, and you're going to say int j and b maybe. And the way that the indenting is working, it makes me wonder, what am I doing wrong here? What's going to blow up? And then say if I equals j, then found it equals true. And I suppose I could even break, right? And why did I say then? Look at that. I went all pseudocode there. And then I guess you could even be kind of clever. Boy, I hope these are all lined up. I guess you could even be kind of clever and put a break statement there. Like, I don't need to check anymore. I guess. I don't know. And then I suppose after all that, if you find it, then you got to add it to the list that you're returning. So we
Yeah.
don't have that list yet. Is this it? Is this how you do this? I don't know. Maybe that's how you do that. The funny thing, isn't it funny how you kind of forget? And so then I guess if you found it, then you might say the new list dot add. And where are we at? We're adding I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's quite a bit going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then after all that, I still have to return the list, right?
Yeah. Now, I'm kind of curious if you were to do we need to add things like, oh yeah, look at that. So what if we did something like, and I don't know, do we have to include, like link, or is link automatically included?
You know,
I don't know. But,
I think for this, I actually don't think any of this uses any additional library, I believe, because array is in system and this is a method on array.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
I can submit it and find out.
Do you want to run this? Can you run it without?
Yes.
And what I'd like to do is, can we run it, but stay in this test and try other ways to solve this test? I think that would be cool. Like, I don't want to. There's an attempt. What's attempt?
Attempt means I want to submit it. The whole test suite.
Oh, right.
This is run it against the sample test that we see here.
Oh, but that's only the sample test.
Right.
Okay.
And it's not going anywhere. So the nice thing here is that I can run this.
Yeah, let's run.
And we're not going to lose it. And I might have a syntax error in here, and it looks like I do.
Yeah.
No surprise, right? Oh, look at this. Look at this. And look what else I did wrong. Look at that. The pressure the pressure of a live stream, right? So let's test again.
And I wasn't really looking that closely.
Array creation must have array size. Creation. Oh, interesting.
So what you've got to do is use a list. So use a list.
Okay.
And then convert it to an array on the way out, right? That's what I usually do.
Fair enough.
Because I don't know. There's probably other ways to do it, but that's the way I would do it.
It's simple enough for what we're doing today, right? Simple enough for what we're doing right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's no performance tests on this thing, right? So.
But look what happened. We now need lists.
Now you need to do it using.
Now here's where we're gonna test my memory here. I could be wrong about this.
Right, I'm with you on this.
Because what would you normally do? You would normally just hit Control Dot or maybe right click and then let it pick the using for you.
Right. One option, by the way, and I don't think it's wrong, is to copy this little sample into
oh yeah, sure,
VS Code or Visual Studio and try to use a little bit of tooling. But
I don't disagree.
What did you get now? It still failed.
No, I didn't run it.
Oh no, it didn't fail. Okay, so that wasn't
it's
not system.collections.
Oh well.
Do you need generic? System.generics generic, right?
Is it generics or generic?
Is it generics? I don't know. I think it might be generic. I don't know if it's generics.
We are off
it's
to the
It's singular.
Okay.
It's singular.
Yep.
All right. I'll be honest, I'm kind of thinking yeah, all right, I knew that. I got that right. I thought it was generic, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. Expected.
Yeah, I probably did something wrong, right? It's saying here.
Probably.
Your values differ. Yeah. Oh, actually, if we find it, we don't want to continue. I think this is backwards.
So, yeah, you want to remove. Let's look at the instructions again. And this is really interesting to show. And again, this was one of those live things where we're really trying to go fast here. It should remove all values from A, which are present in B. So if found in B, it should remove them. You're right.
We did it
so
the
now
wrong
you
way.
Just flip that and say if.
So could do that. I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Pass the sample test. Pass the sample test. Now go ahead.
Here's the thing, right? We're not getting any IntelliSense in here.
That's true.
But what I was going to suggest is, and we could do this in a different tool, if we added, link into here and simply said, A dot and see what methods exist on A. Like, do we get something that looks like it's going to do that for us? Because my guess is, honestly, is that Link has that method.
Oh, I actually,
like,
off the top of my head. So here's the thing. I want to make it very clear that I am not dissing this code, but I already would not think this way because I would already be thinking about an operation over a list, okay? So I can write that code in my sleep, frankly. It was actually more difficult for me to do this, as you all saw, but I kind of felt like we'd probably hack our way through it and get it. So I didn't feel too bad about that. Exactly. Now, do you want to go to a VS Code, or do you want to do a Link style one just right here?
Well, I mean, again, I don't remember the Link method, and so it's kind of hard if you don't have the, IntelliSense at our disposal or something like that. If you know the answer, I'm fairly certain there's a method.
Yeah, there is. There's several. There's a couple that I think we would use here. Let's see. So we want to return. The first thing we need to do is look through A, and we only want the.
Oh, you're talking about using. Oh, so that's interesting. I was talking about an extension method that actually does what we're talking about.
Oh.
But I see where you're going. I wasn't even. This is another great idea. Like A, where
right.
Yeah.
And we want to say for each. I want you to go through A, and X represents each element as we're going through it one at a time. For folks that are new to Link, or maybe they're new to functional style programming. So what I want you to do is as you're going through A, for every X in A, so it's good. X is going to be run again. This little stuff in the parentheses is going to be run again and again and again. Each time X will represent the next value in the array. What I want you to do is I want you to say, well, is X is X if I say B, does B contain X? And if that answer is no, then that's it. That's the array I want. Obviously,
I
could
also say not. You could say where bang B contains. Right?
That's true. Like I could have done.
That's probably the way I would
like
write
that,
it.
Right?
But false is fine too. I don't know. I tend to just. Yeah.
So you could do this.
Run this.
Well,
now that's going to return. That's not an array.
Right. It's going to return an IEnumerable. So.
But you can sort of do the same thing, like array on it.
Right. And I actually don't need to get it into a result first. I think this is it. This is it.
I think you're right. I think that's it.
And
so let's run that. But then I have another idea.
Sure. Yep. Watch. What did I guess? What did I miss here? Okay. The samples. We haven't officially passed the test, but that was kind of on purpose.
So
okay.
What if we leave that line in there, but try another line for me?
Okay.
Which is something like, I think it's like except A dot except B. Well, and it's probably going to have to be to array also, or something like that, right? I think there's a method called like except.
There is.
Not positive. And to me, that was one that I was thinking when you started writing the where clause. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, right? So what does this work?
Well, you want to try it? Yeah, let's try it. I'm trying to think about.
I don't know if it's the right method, but
Okay. So. Well, let's just take a look at this one. Looking at the first test, if A is the array of 2 and B is the array of 1 or 2, the problem with except, I think, we might be able to do this, you still use except, but I don't know that we have this right, is what we're saying take A and take out anything that's in B. So what we should have been left with was nothing? I think, let me think about that. We should have been left with 1. Yeah, that's the problem. Is it? Okay, so the
Well, you
expected
don't know which
outcome
one
is
of those
2.
asserts
Oh,
fail.
okay. No,
Since
thanks
the
for
asserts
that.
are all on one list,
Thanks for
right?
that.
You don't know which one of those
Is
is the
that
problem.
Ross the Lip is saying in the assert test, the expected value is 2, and we were passed in uh 1, 2, and 1. So if that's correct, then this would be A, and A except B. Well, it certainly didn't work, right? A except B.
Yeah.
Do we look up except? Because why do I feel like, for some reason I feel like it's not helping us. But what do you think?
Looking it up, enumerable except method
Mm-hmm.
says the set difference of two sets is defined as members of the first set that don't appear in the second set.
Oh, do we have that backwards?
Oh, wait, is this one of these things where you have to save? Um, you have to. No, that wouldn't matter.
Can you repeat what it said there? Because I wonder if it's backwards from this statement.
Yeah, and it might be, but I don't know. It says the set difference of two sets is okay. Wait, hang on. This method returns those elements in first. Let me look at my example. I assume that they're in first that don't appear in second. It doesn't return those elements in second that don't appear in first. Only unique elements are returned. But I think that's what we want to do, isn't it? Returns the elements in first that don't appear in second.
Right, but I think what Ross is saying is we're reading the test backwards.
Yeah,
so the test says that your expected answer is a list of 2, right?
Given the circumstance that comes after it, right?
Yeah, given if somebody
Yep.
right, is
So what
that
if we
somebody
accept-
is that you call your method with A and with B, and you're supposed to get this. So anyways, go ahead.
So what if you just switch A and B? Because I don't know, maybe it's just backwards and we're understanding that thing wrong, but that still doesn't work. So that's interesting. Missing 2. A.
Oddly enough, I really felt like I could come back and look at this next week and say, okay, I know for sure what this does, instead of, well, what the heck is accept doing, right?
Well, I completely agree with your point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Even if you had both of them, even if they were both correct, when your coworker comes in and looks at accept, they have to go like, oh, I wonder what that method does, right? Because they might not be familiar with it. But the first one's fairly readable, fairly explicit, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
So if we go with that and we attempt it, and Chris is going to get all the credit for this because his points are going to go up if we're all right.
Well,
and
it makes me wonder what is there. That says, okay, so it says there was a random test. They don't give me any details here, and then the sample tests, and you passed all the tests, and then that's it.
That's interesting.
And I guess you could click submit here.
Why would you submit it now? It's already done, right?
Oh, well, I guess I don't submit your solution and view solutions. So let's do that. Of course, I have a bunch of commented stuff in there, but I don't care. That's not important to me. And it just says here, show me all solutions. Right? Oh, this is similar. I think what they're saying here is a bunch of other people did it this way, which is obviously very similar. I just was more explicit about the false.
Yeah, they use the bang, which is.
And then look at this.
What's this one? Is another sample?
Look at this one. Create a hash set from B. How interesting. And then So this one also wins like a big O award, right? Where
For performance, I guess, right?
right is that this will always run in constant time instead of, well, if one of the arrays is very long and you have to check through it, maybe the duplicate is at the very end, and so you're doing all kinds of checks. So it looks like a couple people went for the hash set as an optimization, which is cool because guess what?
But
I learned something, right?
Yeah,
I
but
learned
look,
something.
the next one you got contains here, but this one uses find all. Array find all. That seems like an odd choice on that case, I think.
So I feel like, no, maybe not. Look at that. It created a hash set and then went through and said, given A, find everything that doesn't meet this condition, and then there you go. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what's interesting about this is it's actually well, what this person did is switched it to expression bodied members syntax, right? Instead of curly brace open, curly brace closed. Essentially similar, and didn't even bother with the hash set. But I'm sure the purpose of the hash set looks to me to be a performance issue, where as far as a human reading the code, this is the only line of code you really have to have. It just means that you're using array instead of hash set. But you know, it's what I like about this is that I come away with this thinking like, oh yeah, I wonder if in the future I will remember that now in some case where it's really important. Here is the nested loops solution, which is, I would kind of consider this a classic solution back from the days of C.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Do me a favor. Explain the hash set thing to me again, if you could.
So I can't without looking up hash set. My assumption is that what it must do is create a hash set with each of the values, and then lookups must be constant instead of, because I can understand the issue with an array. When we look at my implementation of the array, this implementation of the nested loops does not have the break that I use to short circuit. Like once we found it, we found it. We didn't need to look anymore.
That's right.
But even with that little optimization, what if the two arrays are somewhat lengthy? And so now with shorter arrays, there's only so many loops you can do. But if the arrays are lengthy, this could be a lot of comparisons, even with that short circuiting, because what if the value that finally trips the comparison is way at the end of the second array? So I think what these folks are trying to say is that the size of the arrays, it's going to check in a more constant time, which I can't quite explain to you yet. I'd have to think about it a little bit. Where with the for loops, it's like, well, you know, depending on the loops you get, two sets of loops that are each the same size, one could still be a longer check than the other just because the duplicate values are all the way at the end every time. So you have to walk the whole array to find the duplicate value that trips the condition. Dictionary I'm pretty familiar with, but I'd have to look up what the implementation of hash set is.
I don't know enough about a hash set. Like, I don't understand how a hash set.
So a hash set is an unordered collection that contains unique elements. So when you take an array and put it in a hash set, first of all, I suppose what that does is there's nothing in this that says that your B array, like your first array could be 1 2 3. Your second array could be 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 3, and you got to remove the threes. So the hash set optimization, I suppose, says, well, reduce that to 4 and 3. What I think is weird about that, though, is, see, we still don't want to eliminate all of. Well, we don't want to. We're A has to remain the same. We're not supposed to disturb the ordering of A. But I guess that's okay. It's okay if you take B and, as it were, hash set it. I didn't want to use the word flatten it, but just reduce it to the values. Just remove all the duplicates. I guess that's technically could be considered faster by removing duplicates. There may even be a more more to say here.
Yeah. So you know what? So here's the thing, right? Now this was a fairly simple example.
Yeah.
And conversations that have come from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Like,
true, right?
honestly, like, look at what we're learning from looking at other people's code.
Right.
We started a conversation about hash sets, whether that's important to the solution or not. We started a conversation about hash sets, right? And so it's kind of interesting to see like what you're going to learn, not just from solving the problem, but I like the fact that it shows you other people's solutions.
And it's pretty accessible to look at them. Like this was pretty easy to just be like, okay, let's after. In fact, as you submitted, they go, hey, here's what other people did.
Right.
So I wonder what happens when you click clever here. Sort by clever. Okay.
Well, this is a pretty simple solution, so maybe clever isn't too.
Yeah, we don't know how they define clever.
Face it, I got to assume some of these things have many lines of code in them as you get into more complicated, questions. Should we try another one? I mean, this is kind of interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Let's if I go to the dashboard, it now says your next challenge and it's ready to go, right? So let's let's pick train. And it says here, write a function.
It says stop spinning my words, I think is what that thing says, right? Write a function that takes a string of one or more words and returns the same string with all five or more letter words reversed. So the word my doesn't get reversed. The word stop doesn't get reversed. Only okay. So that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So how would we do that? So I have some ideas of how I would do that. I think. So I think we take a sentence, right? My guess is that we split that into into words or something like that, right? Like maybe I don't know. There's probably an easy way to do it, but you could split on a space or something like that, right? You get it. I don't know if this is what you're thinking. Would you do something like that? Split, right? And now you've got the array. I think that returns an array actually, or a collection or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Split. And then you want to look at each word. And if the count, if the length is 5 or more, we just flip it, right?
Then you gotta put the word in an array and reverse it.
And then just put the sentence back together with the spaces and stuff like that, right? Now, is there an easier way? Well, instead of doing split, I think that the interesting thing about split, you could do some sort of thing where you do some sort of link thing where you get the words, but at the end of the day, you need all the words. And so split does kind of keep them all together nicely.
All this did so far, was get us like the list of words, right? That's all this did so far.
So now,
and my assumption is that looks like this. That's my belief anyway.
Yeah.
And so now, if you did the loop, right?
You want me to loop through it?
Well, there's probably a cooler Lambda way to do this.
So I've actually already kind of onto something. Do you want me to try it, or do we want to do it a different way?
With
the keys, yeah.
Way.
So I figure, okay, if sentence dot, and don't worry about the code up there. If this syntax is correct, then now that I've done this, I want to map over each word. I want to go over each word. And we'll use W to represent each word. Right. And this is the interesting thing. I bet you there's a better way to do this, because I only want to act on words where the count is, what was it, 5 or greater?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you could still do that because you
do an anonymous method, right?
I can.
And then
I can. Yeah. Somehow I think that there's more link here, but that's okay. I'm okay with this. So if I say if x dot and what is it? It could be length maybe. I think there's a length.
Is that W?
Yeah, thank you.
If w.length is greater than or equal to 5, then you want to, basically you want to flip it, right? So it's going to be like, yeah, W reverse, right? Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Kind of assuming there's a reverse method, but I kind of thought there was, right?
I think there is.
But now you're doing a select with the returns.
Well, I have to return because we switched to this syntax, right? Where we opened a curly brace.
Syntax, I think is legit. Do you need a semicolon at the end?
I don't think so because we still have to smush it.
Oh, you haven't done that yet. Yeah.
Which
right,
is
right.
Doesn't string have a join? But I forget.
Well, why do you have to smush it? That split's going to give you an array.
Is that what they wanted in a? But see the result. We have to return a string. We have to return a string. They want the string back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we just return this, we would get an array, correct array. Yes. It wouldn't be that thing. So you need to join them with a space in between each one of them.
Sorry. Is there a join?
That I don't know.
Well, I don't know. This is one of the ones where
I know we would prefer to have. Let's just see. Join takes one argument. No overload takes one argument. Okay.
Oh, see, join might be to join two arrays or something like that. Like, so maybe it's not join. Maybe it's two string. What would it be?
So the first problem with join is static, so I can't use it in this context. I need to get out my array of words.
You're Googling it.
I did because I would have never figured this out without IntelliSense. So because join was static, I can't just slap it on the end here, right? That means instead I have to do this. And it says
you have your array of words or something like that. Yeah.
Look, there may be other instances of join. I admit that the whole point of this was not to study ahead.
Oh, wait, hang on. That's not going to work.
Why?
Oh, well, you're right.
You need to put that in something like new list. Yeah, that'll work, right?
No, we intentionally didn't study at all. Like that was the point. Was to be confused and like, oh gosh, I don't remember these basic things. Which is okay.
We don't know which questions it would give us anyway. The questions are coming up randomly anyway, so who knows what we're
Well, I kind of purposely didn't want to look. Now, I don't know. This might be it. Maybe, I don't know. No, still failed. Strings differ.
String 7. Welcome.
I wonder if this reverse didn't do what I wanted.
No, we need a... So that's interesting. Reverse must return an array. You might need to two-string that. I think reverse. See, W is a collection of letters at that point, right? Because you're calling a link expression on a string, but it's going to treat it like a collection of letters, right? So it might not recompile them. It might see it's a system. It's an array of system.characters.
Okay.
So you need to compile that array back into whatever it was that we did, right? And again, I think there's a method. I think there's something you could just stick at the end of that too.
Does string take an array of characters?
Yeah, that it might. That sounds kind of cool. That's a pretty slick idea.
I don't know that it does.
Car star. What does that mean? I don't even know. So no, the answer is no, I think. So how do we take an array, Turn array of strings into one string. String buffer?
Seems like a lot of work.
Oh, that's Java. Oh, that's what the heck's that? I should have put C# in there. So join, which is what you tried to do.
Can you do that?
Yes. Maybe you could do the same thing on the join method.
And just not supply anything. Like what if what if you join it and maybe you don't even have to do this?
Yes, that's right. Well, yeah, I don't know if you have. No, I think you have to have that parameter no matter what. Empty character literal. Interesting.
This is not an IEnumerable of char anymore, is it?
W.
That's my guess. It's no longer
Which
an IEnumerable
which
of char.
Isn't the W or W.reverse?
Yeah, it's complaining on line 14 that it can't convert argument 1, W.reverse, from this IEnumerable of char to char. Okay, yeah, because you were saying, and I don't know string join well enough, but let's see if I look at it again. String join, there's one where you give it a char, you can give it a string, so maybe the empty string.
You need to return, okay, you can return new string of the char array. You were right with that idea. That should work. I'm looking at it on Stack Overflow. And once you do array.reverse, array.reverse, and you have to pass the character array into it. So it's treating it as a static method as well. That a reverse is not W.reverse. So if you get that, so on line 14, if you put in something like array.reverse W.
So this passed, by the way, when I did this, which is probably hacky.
Oh, that passed? I didn't see you do that.
This is probably hacky.
What did you do? String? Oh, you used string.empty.
I said, well, this isn't string.join wants either a character or a string. This is not a valid character. That is not a valid character.
No, but double quotes would be. Yeah, so double quotes might be.
Is it?
I'm just curious.
Oh, well, that's an empty string. Yeah.
That's string.empty.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Right. So you used it. You were giving it you were doing string join, not character.join.
Yeah, absolutely. I admit that there's other ways to do this for sure. And I still feel like something about this rubs me the wrong way, but whatever. That's not the point. These tests pass. If there's some other corner case that we're unaware of, we will find out when we attempt. But, well, I guess let's do it, right? And they said everything passed. So now what will be interesting is to take a look at what some other people did here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because part of me felt like I shouldn't have had to drop into this anonymous method, but that's okay. Let's see. So,
This is what I was thinking. I was thinking there was some way to do it like that. I thought that's where you were headed in the beginning with the select method.
All in an expression, right? This is your expression. Right. Essentially what we did, except in an expression without dropping into if else, right?
But let's be clear about that, right? Yeah. So is there any value to doing it in an expression? Meaning, like, is it more readable? Is it less readable? You could have that debate. In other words, which is the best code for your solution and for your team and things like that, right? It's both correct, right? I don't know. Some people would say what way we had it was a little more, maybe more clear. I don't know. I could read this pretty easily, this sample I'm seeing here, but some people might say they don't like that kind of, jamming everything into the expression like that,
Yeah. Some things work for that terse little style, and if, a true false statement or an if then statement kind of works, I think.
Right. What happens if you scroll down? What else do we see here, Chris?
Oh, interesting.
Did a where clause.
So after the split, then where, that's fine. But what was interesting here was,
No, I don't know. That seems worse. First of all, they made a method inside the thing, which I was thinking was an interesting. I was thinking about that idea. Create our own little reverse method.
Right, a local function, yeah.
Which I don't think is a bad idea. But how is that returning split where?
So what it's doing is it's saying, okay, first I want an array where I split the words, but I only care about the ones where they're more than 4. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the original sentence and I'm gonna replace the words.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll replace the word.
I don't know if I like that. I feel a little weird about that solution. But it works, right?
Yeah.
I wonder. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
And it's almost
replace, like, right?
It's like they did it in backwards. They basically said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to find everything that's greater than 4, and then what we'll do is we'll go through those words and we'll use the replace method to just find them at the time. Just look through the sentence and find it, and then when you do find it, then reverse it right there, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting, right? Again, interesting. That's, what else can you say? Like, okay, cool.
I don't even dislike it.
Creative,
not really.
Right? Creative. This one.
This is very similar to what we did, except instead of select as a for loop, that essentially implements the select. Essentially.
Right.
Except to make the replacement in place easier, they use the index within the words array to just say, like, well, if words index of 2, then let's replace word index of 2 right here. We know exactly which one to replace. I think we've kind of seen this before, except concat. Concat. I bet you we were looking for concat instead of join with a. Well,
yeah,
maybe not. I don't know.
That one always throws me.
Maybe not, because here's putting it back together. So words are split. That's kind of seems to be standard procedure. And then after the words were split, saying, okay, let's go through them, but we're just looking for the words. So we're going to select, and then once again, if the length is greater than or equal to 5, then we will concat the reversed word. Otherwise, just return the word. Okay, sure.
So,
but now watch this next one. Look at that.
Regex,
nice.
Which is a place I would never go.
I wouldn't have thought of it.
But I got to admit, of all the solutions, this is I think it's the shortest one we've seen. Whether that matters or not.
It wouldn't have occurred to me because I am not versed enough to regex for me to say, like, oh, regex is powerful enough to do that. Which, look, I know regex is very powerful, but I am not versed enough to think that, like, this is where I should go. Yeah.
And quite frankly, if I saw these solutions, and I was in Stack Overflow, and a couple of people, I said, how do I do this? And a couple of people gave me some solutions. I probably wouldn't want to put this one into my solution again, because, as much as, again, I mean, I'm not good at regex, right? And that's kind of lame. Like, we probably should be better at regex for the amount of years we've been, doing this kind of stuff, right? But I know my team's not also. Like, most people I know hate regex. And so if I put that in there, how do we maintain that? No one's going to be able to come in here and go, oh, yeah, I know what that means. I can make a minor change to that,
Right.
And I think about a lot of that kind of stuff as a manager of, like, how maintainable is the solution going to be by other people? I don't want to dumb things down, but I think the regex one would only just cause trouble down the road for other people.
Yeah, and so here somebody wrote some extensions that I think that's interesting. Seems like a ways to go to get to the end, but whatever. That's okay. Also use an expression bodied member to implement it. So
this is cool.
Yeah, so this is
I don't know. It's I mean, I don't mean necessarily tonight. We could do one more tonight. I don't. That's not my point. This is cool. This could be like something we do on shows once in a while, because I think it brings up other topics that people would like to hear about. We're talking about, there's some link things that maybe you didn't know, or there's a join method. It's almost like this writes itself as a show.
Well, certainly it was a refresher even for us as to some of the basics that you just sort of don't think about every day, especially because we didn't sit in an IDE and let it help us,
Right.
Another site that I took a quick look at was HackerRank. And so HackerRank, I didn't dive into it as much because there were a couple reasons why. One is that they have this like certification section. And I said, okay, so I guess you go through this and you get certified, right? And then you had to start filling out a bunch of stuff. And I said, okay, well, I wasn't too interested in that. Or you can also compete, but I think in order to compete, you have to sign up for these different contests, and I'm sure they're all really good. What I was looking for, as I said, I feel like that's too long form for what we were looking for here. So I was kind of hoping to find, they have these preparation stacks, which are going to remind you a little bit of what Code Wars is doing, in my opinion. But so I clicked on like functional programming and started going down that path a little bit. And let me see if I can find one that's... I will tell you what my criticism is. As I got to this point in the functional programming one, where in my opinion, in my humble opinion, it actually started to become a math test and not... Like, I didn't ever feel like... I understand that these are probably great problems to solve functionally. Maybe if I would have gone further, like this crosswords one, I'll bet you is a good one. But I said, I'm not going to learn about... I don't think I'm going to be able to... The math here is what's going to get me. So I wanted something a little simpler that we could actually look at. And maybe this one, I don't know. Maybe
functional in the C# space. Would that be something that...
Well, so this is the interesting thing, right? Is look at the languages supported here. Is C# not in the list? So I did
because
this.
It's a function,
yeah.
Right.
I don't know if that's why. Maybe it is, but I did this in F#.
Yeah, I was thinking that like you were trying to learn F# here in the functional programming model. Like I thought that's what that category gave you. Like, okay, we're going to talk about functional programming languages.
Yeah.
But it's not really.
So the problem is I can't. There when I went to prepare, I don't have a C# one. There is a SQL one. This could be interesting. I haven't looked at this at all. Revising the select query. So query the name field for all American cities in the city table with populations larger than 120,000. The country code for America is USA. So I suppose, you type some SQL in here and you can pick and whatever, MS SQL Server, I guess. And, well, let's see. If I want the name field, right, then I say select. Oh, I don't need the we'll make this bigger in a second here. I want to be able to still see the problem. So we know we need the name field, right? So this is at the bottom. This is happening. This is really small, unfortunately. So
that's weird.
Sorry about that. We'll just have to look. We'll just have to go back up and look. So I feel like I want to select name from the city table. Yeah. And then we know there's going to be a where.
Right.
Where
greater than 12,000. I mean, that's not that hard.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, this is not. This is kind of about just seeing, right? And then they said they want American cities, and the country code is USA. This looks like a varchar. So let's say country code equals USA. Is it that simple? It's thinking. Oh, they said something about put a. Oh, I guess it worked.
Congratulations. Yeah, right.
So, I mean, again, just tonight, here's something, right? Maybe you want to learn SQL. Forget, for someone who's never done it before, this could be pretty cool. I've never tried that, so that was neat.
Yeah, neat. So HackerRank is an option, and code is an option.
Yep.
Right. And both. So it's interesting. You stopped using HackerRank. I mean, you felt like you didn't want to create an account on there. Is that what you're saying? Oh, you have an account on here.
When it came to what we would work on tonight, because I just didn't want to do something that would exclude everybody, I said, well, okay, I don't have prepare in C# in here. It's not anywhere. See? And I said, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to do F# by myself? Which I can do. We could do one of them just for fun. But the other option was to start down this certification path, and I didn't know where this was going to lead.
So in Certify, they have the language.
Yeah.
Well, what about this HackerRank skills test? What if you did that? Start with the skills test in green there. Oh, that was what you were talking about, where it wants to...
Yeah, they want your number and they want stuff.
Number so we can all see it.
Yeah. So I think in the end you get to say that I'm certified, I did everything on this site. And so now the question is, you can tell that HackerRank, and I'm not going to say Code Wars isn't doing this either, that there tends to be this lead towards look, we're going to help you get jobs because we're going to be able to tell people they passed all of our tests. So that's kind of a different tangent that I was hoping we might get to, is what do you think about that?
It does say the career fair has ended, so well, that was September. Yeah. No, that's a cool twist. So Code Wars doesn't have something like that.
Well, does it not?
I don't fault a company for trying to make some money, and I'm wondering if HackerRank, that's the money play for them, is maybe on the recruiting side or something like that. And good for them if it is, right? Because again, I don't fault a company for trying to make some money. But I wonder if Code Wars, then, if they don't have a play like that, then how are they making money? Is it just a community site? And who's paying the bills? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know either, actually. So, because I haven't seen anything that asks me to, upgrade to red. So upgrading to red lets me do some things, right? No ads, which I guess I didn't,
but they must have some at some point, right?
Yeah.
And listen, $5 a month seems reasonable for something like this too, right? I think so. That's not so bad, right? I'm not saying this is wrong. They throw some extra features in here, head-to-head comparisons and enhanced stats and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. But they seem to give away a pretty good amount for free as well.
Yeah, we were able to start working. We haven't run into anything yet, and I didn't want to do a bunch of things either. So, there's a whole community here too. People are definitely talking. I haven't read through it, but and then you can have friends on here. I think we can, if other people were on, we could say oh, that's somebody I'm interested in following, and see how they're doing on things. So, I don't know if this is a little bit of a tangent, but I would say one of the sites that kind of started this all was Free Code Camp. Have you heard of Free Code Camp?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Free Code Camp has, tons of these things that they call certifications that you can literally start like let's pick this front end development libraries one, and you can just start going down and learning all about Bootstrap and all about jQuery and so on, right? Um, this has been around a long time, and they do ask you as you use the site. They do ask you, hey, we provide this service for free. Even anything helps, but there's no requirement.
Same.
So.
Interesting, because it is called Free Code Camp. I mean, the name says free, which is a little strange.
Well, like they say here, it's 100% donor supported, from what I understand, right?
I'm sure it is. It's great. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever used this, but once again, I have. And actually, I don't know, about a year ago, my daughter went through the basic HTML course, and like here's a sample where they teach you and you code on the same page, where they say, hey, you can have radio buttons for questions where the user can only pick one thing, and they basically say, here's how it works. Is you got a radio button here, and then at the end they say, why don't you add some radio buttons to this form? But just like what we were doing, you run the tests, and eventually when you get it right, you move on.
This is interesting. I was really not expecting you to say that they have tests on this, because it looks like you're getting into potentially some complex scenarios. Now, I would be interested to know how they set up tests on some of these things. Do they show you the tests? I mean, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So let's see. I need a couple radio buttons nested in a label element. Let's see. One should have the option of indoor, one the option of outdoor. So if I remember how to do this correctly, which it doesn't seem to say where to do this, which I guess is, does it not matter? Add a pair of radio buttons to your form. Okay, well the form's here, so it's got to be here. So then I say, does anybody remember this from their HTML? It's radio, and we do have the instructions up here. Type is radio. They want one indoor, outdoor, and then there's a radio button, looks like this. All right. So they say the name equals indoor, outdoor, so that you pick between the two of them. And
okay, and what's the other radio button for?
They said they want two of them. They want one for indoor and one for outdoor. I'm probably not doing this right.
Oh, because they're radio buttons, right? Not like selects. Yeah, okay, right.
So and see, it's rendering over here, which is cool. Right? So I get to see what I'm doing, and am I doing this right? Because they should be switching. They should switch back and forth. So yeah, I've done it correctly, because they're in the same group, because their name is indoor, outdoor. The names match. That tells the browser that these are options and that you have to pick between the two. So I think I've done this correctly. And so you wanted to see the tests.
Yeah, I guess since that's the only challenge you had, I didn't realize the challenge was sort of. I thought it was going to be a bigger scope to the challenge and stuff like that. So they can just go to DOM and look for those things that you created. Right?
I take it back. I agree with you, but I still haven't done it right. It says each nested in its own label element. So I did this wrong. I think what they wanted was this. I think they want label for indoor. And I may not have to close that input. Is input one of those ones you don't close? I think it is. So I don't think I have to close. I think that's me being kind of silly. I don't think I need this thing.
You do need the slash inside there, though, don't you?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think you do.
end it with slash slash bracket,
Great.
don't you? Yeah, right.
I think the browser actually doesn't care. Even though that sounds odd to us, like coming from something like an XML. So what are we looking at over here? Oh, we're not seeing indoor, outdoor. Do I put indoor like this? Oh, whoops, I did them backwards.
I didn't know cats loved lasagna.
Okay,
I'm
now
learning a
let's run the
lot.
test. And it's like, oh, you did it. So this is free code camp, right?
It's cool. Boom shakalaka.
And then you go on to the next thing. And my daughter did this. She did the HTML and HTML5 course. You know, I don't know, it took a little while, but pretty cool, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought of it's a little bit of a tangent from Code Wars, but I'm not super familiar with Code Wars besides what we did tonight. I feel like there's a lot more to it, like making your own challenges and stuff. But
Totally, totally. It seems like something that you could use as a, as a resume builder or whatever. Like, look at my score on Code Wars and things like that, and I'd be like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Look at that. But I don't know how that would correlate. Like, if someone sent me their score, um, I don't know if what that would mean to me as a hiring person. Um, but it's kind of cool. I do like it. I really do. I think it's
is it something you would want to start working on? Just for yourself. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out because the implication can be that you need this if you don't are new to the language. I don't know if that's true. We with these simple examples, we sure talked a while.
Yeah, I forget things every day. And so, yeah, I don't. Personally, I mean, it's a question of time. Like, would I spend time on this? There's a lot of websites that have like score and get your score as a developer. And sometimes I should do one of these. I should find out how well I know the language and stuff like that. And I answer like a question. I'm like, oh, I'm busy. I don't have time for this, which is unfortunate. Let's change that question a little bit though. How about as a manager, would we want our employees to do this? And could we use this somehow and say, well, let's see how you guys do on this. Is that something that or one of those things that you say, hey, listen, I want my employees to be doing learning things. They should always be learning new things. And so maybe sometimes they're watching Pluralsight videos or YouTube videos. And sometimes they're taking some other course. And would I say, hey, you know what? Spend an hour on a week doing some Code War katas. Like, would that be a good experience for them? And would they learn stuff from it? It's just another tool that we could have in our toolkit of ways to, just, I don't know, have people grow and learn. I'm always looking for like, how are ways that people can, what's nice about this is you can get in and out pretty quickly. You could solve a problem and you're done, right? If we weren't talking about it, it would have probably gone much quicker. And somebody could be like, yeah, I'm going to just do one, hanging out. I got some time. I'll do one of these quick things. I'm curious to know what an 8 KYU difficulty problem looks like, quite frankly. Strange trip to the market. Like, what's that going to, I think you got to, oh. There's a typo in it. Oh, that's okay.
Can't say I'm sure I know what the question is. I guess you have to click train.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I think you're going to try to figure out what the tip gratuity thing is or something like that. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, I guess. There's only 2 guaranteed ways to tell if you're talking to the Loch Ness Monster. If it's 400 feet tall, or if it'll ask you for tree fitty. So supposedly, I guess you're supposed to look through this sentence.
Honestly, this one's it's too late at night for me to try to decipher what the question is from this, you know.
Yeah, yeah, interesting, right? So you're looking for. It's almost like somebody tried too hard, right? You could write 350, you could write 350, and then I guess you're supposed to look for these things, and there's probably a smart way to do it. So I might have picked one that was a little too difficult, but then I thought like, well, regex, I don't want to look at regex, I don't want to look at regex. Get a number from a string. That's an interesting. Write a function which removes from a string all non-digit characters and parse the remaining to a number. So, for example, hello world with a 5 and 6 embedded becomes 56. Kind of that's considered hard, I suppose. I don't know who creates these difficulties. I can't answer that, but
yeah. And this is a good use for. I bet there's a regex way to solve that one. That's for sure.
Yeah, maybe, huh? Remove just basically keep the digits and then try parse it.
But see, I guess that's the angle on these kind of site, right? Like the problem that they're going to pose to you is never going to be build a website that collects data from your user. You know, like that's not what they're doing. These are puzzles, so to speak, right? They're like, and so, you know, they're never going to be. It's not going to be 1,000 lines of code. I don't imagine like that. You know, it's going to be complexity within the scope of the types of things that are all questioned on this website. You know, like puzzly kind of.
Yeah.
Creative ways to do things, you know.
So and might they be
kind of?
Go ahead.
And we did kind of cache, or when you described this at one point, you called them katas, and katas are exercises to kind of warm up and get loose. It shouldn't be this long involved thing, but something to kind of get your mind into the coding or the coding work you're going to wind up doing today.
Right, brain training, not necessarily like the massive problem solving kind of thing. So yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
I was just gonna
look at some supposedly harder ones, you know.
Like I was just gonna ask, are they too out of context to be useful?
Well, yeah, it kind of comes back to my whole thing about would this be something for training for, employees, and I don't know if it's right for that.
Okay. Like Hector HSC asks, would you do katas once a week?
I don't know. Would you, Hector? I would return the question, Hector. What do you think? Would you?
I know some people who would look at that and say, there's, and this is, there's a number of different problems there, but that from a kata perspective, they might have, a collection of them that they would go through and they would pick 2 or 3 before they started doing the real work, right? It was kind of like, as you're having your coffee and you're starting to get into your flow, that was how they would warm up.
Yeah, exactly. I could see that being the case. And I also, it's sort of gamified a little bit, with points and things like that. And I think a lot of people just really enjoy doing this kind of stuff and just really like get caught up in it and want to see how many of these problems they can solve. And that's fun too, right? There's a fun aspect to it, right?
Yeah. A bit of gamification, just like Stack Overflow.
Yeah, totally. I'm getting a little tired. What about you guys?
Yeah, well, we exercised our brains a little bit, right? And did these code problems. And I didn't know what to expect because I was concerned that they might be so like algorithm-y that I'd be like, I don't know what to do. But I guess it worked out and we had some fun.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. As I was trying to say earlier, I don't know if I made my point correctly, but if we came across something in a couple weeks or whatever, and also we're like, what do you guys want to do tonight on the show? I'd be like, let's just open this up again one time and just see what kind of conversations come about it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. No, I'm glad. I'm glad because I had come across HackerRank. I tried a few things out. I think I told you I was going down the functional programming one, and so yeah, I was doing some F sharp, and it turned out that on the F sharp side, what was actually, quite honestly, what was more of a challenge turned out to be that you don't get too far into this. Let me see if I can find where they do this here, and they say, is this right? Yeah, they say, okay, you're given a list. I'm gonna have to make this larger font. Sorry. You're given a list. Return the sum of odd elements from the given list. The input and output portions will be handled automatically. Oh, this isn't actually the one I was thinking of, I believe. Nope, this isn't the one, because they write a bunch of code that'll deal with reading it. There was a different one, and maybe it was this one. Yes, this is the one where they say, okay, what you were supposed to do was, let's see, print all the integers from the array that are less than the given upper limit. And so if this was your input, 3, 10, 9, 8, 2, then you only want to keep the values that are less than 3, because the first value was 3. And they actually want you to read off of standard input. They just want you to read off of standard input, and they want you to write to standard output. And they have this little line up here that says, you need to write a function with the recommended method signature for languages mentioned below. For the rest of them, you have to do it all. So when I went down to the bottom, and they didn't list F sharp. So they're basically saying, like, okay, read that input from standard in, print it to standard out. And I actually spent more time coming up with my kind of like abstraction for that than I did solving the problem. But the cool thing was, and I use the word cool loosely, is once I had that, then I was able to take that from problem to problem to problem. And it turned out that what I did, and it took me a little bit of work and thinking, and I actually learned a lot about F sharp, was saying, okay, I have my main function, which takes an argument. It takes basically the list of arguments, the standard in, and all I really want to do is I want to read the first one and put it into an int. Now I have n. I have what I have to filter by. Then I want to read all the rest of them, and it turns out that they have an infinite sequence. So you basically say, okay, so for an infinite sequence, then do a console read line, and just keep doing that until that console read line is an empty string. And then, well, what I'm doing is I'm saying take while it's not an empty string. But once it is, then this thing goes away. Then, once you've done that, turn that into an integer, take that sequence, turn it into an integer, and then turn that to a list. Now I have my console input as a list. Then I was able to write the function. So I actually had to spend more time figuring this thing out. None of this is the actual work, right? Then I said, well, now I'm going to write a function. I'll call the function print less than. I'll pass in what the first value was, and I'll pass in the list of input. And then I had to go implement the function, right? And I knew I would never remember it again, so I have it saved here. But the funny thing about it is it's like I actually learned more about F sharp than I did anything else, you know? Just in order to set up this this kind of shell. And then in later problems, they kept doing this. In later problems, they kept saying, okay, you got to read from standard input and output on your own. Good luck. And I was like, well, at least I can pull this in. So I don't know. I don't know how I felt about that. I learned more about I learned more about that than I did. Like the function actually turns out to be easy. This right here, this funky looking thing, this is just a select. That's all it is. So select over the array, and if e is less than n, then we want that. That's it. It just looks more complicated because, you know, if you're new to F sharp, then it's like, I don't know what you did. But it was funny that I learned more about init infinite and take while and stuff. So HackerRank tends to have interesting issues like that. I'm not trying to say anything negative about either site, but it felt at times the experience was less polished. But that doesn't mean that it's worthless, because there's definitely a lot of topics here. I'm sure you could learn a lot doing it. So, anyways, I don't know. Try them out. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're watching in the future, maybe let us know what you think of hackerrank.com, codewars.com. Have you tried Free Code Camp? Let us know. You can give us a comment. You can hit like if you like this kind of episode. You can subscribe to the channel. You'll always know when we go live. And if you're on Twitch and you follow, you'll get that notification, which should be 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, right?
That's the plan.
And next week, we are going to talk about.
All we can
I
do
picked
is
the wrong
plan.
one. Picked the wrong one. There it is. So on the Meetup site, meetup.com, the Dev Talk Show next week, we're going to try out GitHub Copilot. So that should be pretty fun. It was.
You're the only one coming, looks like, Chris.
Yeah, I'm the only one coming because it's just up there. But hopefully we can keep this schedule kind of up to date, right? So
Yeah.
Next week, GitHub Copilot.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So what do you think? Anything else, or are we tired? It's been a long night, right?
Yeah.
Been a long day.
Yeah.
No, it was good stuff. Good. I think that's awesome. I think it's a different way of, some people that'll resonate with as far as learning that way, and it's good to know those things are out there to pick up some different skills. So thanks for running through that.
Yeah, that was terrifying as much as it was, because I honestly thought, like, I'm not gonna be able to finish one of these. We're just gonna be stuck on it all night. We're just gonna be stuck.
One of us would have, searched for something in the background and not let that happen. So there's that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, thanks to everybody who joined in, who helped us out in the comments. Appreciate it. Hope that you had a good time. And unless there's anything else, you've got us there on Twitter on the screen. And I want to thank my co-hosts, Rich Ross and Andy Schwam. Thanks for everything. And you folks watching make the show happen, though. So let us know what you think. You can reach out to us on Twitter, either by what you see there or Twitter, the Dev Talk Show. And other than that, I think if we are good, we will see you all next time on the Dev Talk Show.